What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about the newest movie from director Robert Zemeckis. And Robert Zemeckis is one of those directors who has an absolutely wild filmography when you think about the history of movies and all of these directors that are really well known. I feel like Zemeckis' catalog, I mean, obviously, you think about Back to the Future, you think about Forrest Gump, you think about Castaway, one of my personal favorites, Death Becomes Her. He has a wild array of films in his catalog. And so I never really know what to expect when I watch one of his movies. I feel like when it comes to like the Forrest Gump-esque genre, you kind of know what you're getting into. And from the trailer of this movie, it seemed very much to align with that. And there were some interesting things going for this. It seemed like it was all going to be shot from the same angle, essentially looking from this one area in this specific living room, but seeing it over time, like before the house was built and different eras and all of that. And also, there was apparently some form of AI used to de-age Tom Hanks's character and some of the other characters involved in the movie, which I'm not all on board about that. I don't think it always looks great. I liked when Daisy did it for The Irishman. I thought it was relatively natural, but from the trailer of this, it just didn't look natural. It looked kind of strange and uncanny valley at times. But either way, I went in to watch this movie. It's now available on VOD. I didn't really want to see this in the theater, so I waited for it to be on VOD, and the movie I'm going to be discussing with you today is Here. Here is directed by Robert Zemeckis, an odyssey through time and memory centered around a place in New England where from wilderness and then later from a home, love, loss, struggle, hope, and legacy play out between couples and families over generations. So I was looking forward to watching this. I think Robert Zemeckis is a very talented director. He's made a lot of movies that I've really loved over the years. And if I had one word to describe this movie, it's messy. This movie is a mess. I do not think it's very good whatsoever. I'm kind of confused as to why it was made. I respect Zemeckis for what he's going for here, but for, how deep and thought-provoking that I think he thought this movie was going to be, it comes across as very shallow and corny. Almost felt like a Hallmark movie at moments, especially with a lot of the insane overacting from some of these really phenomenal actors. It made it kind of a difficult watch, and I'll go into detail when I break the movie down. But very simply, the plot description kind of gives it away. We're in this one house, and we see it before, we see dinosaurs, we see Native Americans, we see all of these different people before the house is even built. Then we get to see the construction of the house, and then we see all of these people that live in the house over time. And it's not necessarily told in a straightforward linear narrative. Sometimes we'll jump forward, sometimes we'll jump back. And it's just to showcase this one specific area and all these people that live there during a specific amount of time. The main focus really is on Richard and Margaret, played by Tom Hanks and Robin Wright, and their relationship from when they're really young all the way until when they're grown adults and into their elderly years. And it's just an examination of life in this area and how, despite, this being one single location, so much has happened here. There's incredible people from history that have walked on those grounds. They're just normal, everyday people. And it's just overall an examination of life. So like I said, I think this movie is messy, and I think it bites off more than it can chew. I will say, if I'm going to give it any sort of praise, I like what Zemeckis is trying to do here. I think there's real beauty in kind of looking at just a space and what like a place or an object can hold. I think there's some sort of brilliance in, like, you can see a house or you can see like an object, whether that be a painting or a picture or like an artifact, like a bowl or something. And despite it just being a thing, so much can happen around it. And what gives that thing meaning is the people who interact with it. One of my favorite bands of all time is a band called La Dispute. They have this really brilliant record called Rooms of the House, and the entirety of the album is an examination of all of these different time periods and people that live together and these objects affiliated with these people, and how the objects are representative of the people who hold them, and the spaces that you live in have personality and definition based on the people who were there, and that even when people move on, that thing will develop a different personality and become something new. And I think there's a lot of beauty in that. It's really thought-provoking and it's intelligent, and it's much better than anything that this movie is trying to say, because Zemeckis is trying to get you there. He's trying to say like, hey, space can hold a lot of meaning because a ton of people pass through it, and it's held so many different people and so many different things. But the problem is all the examination is incredibly shallow, and there are a ton of reasons why it doesn't work. For starters, I was not a fan of any of the performances in this movie. I love Tom Hanks. I think he's a really talented actor. He is hamming it up in this movie in a way that just doesn't work. And that's not to say he hasn't had some performances that he hammed it up in his career. I just really didn't like this. It felt kind of inauthentic. Most of the actors in this movie felt like caricatures of people and less like real people. Like everything was elevated to 1,000. I feel like now, whenever something takes place in like the 40s or the 50s, or like, it's like, yeah, Sonny boy, yeah. See, and it just comes across as so inauthentic and unrealistic. And it's like, you can tell it was an old man making the movie because everything, none of it feels natural. It's like you think someone who grew up in that time period would make it feel more realistic, but it just feels like someone creating a caricature of a person that lives in a specific area, which makes the movie really difficult to watch in moments. I just found myself getting really frustrated at this movie because of how irritating the performances are. Paul Bettany's in this movie, and I love Paul Bettany, and his performance in this was not good either. He had one moment where he tried to be very emotional, and it came across as really corny. And that's disappointing because I like these actors a lot, and I just think across the board, it really didn't work all that well. I respect what Zemeckis was trying to do with like the way the cinematography would have these boxes appear, and you would see kind of like overlays from different areas, essentially trying to continuously like get across the message of like, great things have happened here, but also some just mundane normal stuff has happened here, but the place has always existed. Like there's some thought-provoking ideology there, but jumping back and forth between these time periods, it's so uninteresting. I didn't care about most of the characters because the emotional beats were so incredibly predictable. Even in Tom Hanks and his wife's life, it's just like so many of the things that happened. It's like, yep, somebody's going to get sick, somebody's going to die, there's going to be problems in their relationship, there's going to be issues with their kids. And it's like, sure, you could say, Nate, you're being really bitter about this. That's life, but do it in a way that's interesting. Don't do it in a way that just feels like a music video or like a diorama that someone created. Like it just, that's all it felt like. Like someone said this on Letterboxd, and I thought it was brilliant. If you're familiar with Disney World, there's a ride there called the Carousel of Progress, and that's what this movie felt like. I 100% agree with that statement. Seeing life over time and trying to create a really deep and thought-provoking message. There's a little bit about Tom Hanks's character and his desire to be an artist, but him kind of like throwing his desire for being an artist out the window in order to make money for his family to survive. And I think that's very real to a lot of people's experiences. It's difficult to be an artist. I mean, I love making YouTube reviews. I love putting content out there. I don't make enough money to do this as my full-time job. I would love to do that in the future, but it takes a lot of effort and a lot of sacrifice. You have to do real work in order to be able to do this type of work. And so that makes life a little bit complex, but they didn't do it in a way that was relatable. This character is not relatable. He feels just kind of like a bland, blank slate. Like, sure, he likes art, but there's nothing really else about his character that you could attach yourself onto. And I feel like because the vignettes are so small, you don't really get enough time to build true emotional connection with any of these characters. And so it all feels relatively hollow. I mean, there's a couple of sweet moments, but I think because of how much overacting there is here and like the really uncanny valley CGI AI creation of the de-aged faces that was really distracting, it just makes for an overall unsatisfying experience. This is not a movie that I would probably ever revisit. And it's unfortunate because I feel like the idea has a heck of a lot of potential. So have you seen Here? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I thought this movie was bad. I didn't really enjoy it at all, and I'd probably recommend skipping it. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.